Hey Jasmine, thanks for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
My name's Jasmine Singh. I go by Astro Jazz on Twitter. So you may or may not know me, but I am a recent graduate from Purdue University with a bachelor's in planetary science and atmospheric science. Um, and I have a huge passion for space and space exploration. So I love just kind of talking about that to the public. I love getting them excited about it. I think, you know, communication between scientists and the public is super important. So I love doing that and just sharing, space news and space facts and just random things about space. People really love it. Currently, I'm applying to PhD programs for planetary science, and I hope to research in the field of astrobiology specifically because I really want to kind of search for life beyond Earth. That's been a huge thing that I've thought about for many years and am really passionate about that. So yeah, great to be here.
Where do you think your passion comes from? Can you trace it back to some early memory or something?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's one specific memory, but I would say it definitely started in around sixth grade. So I was about 10 or 11 years old. And I was in earth science class and we had a unit about the planets. And so I would say that's where I really started getting into space. Because ever since then, I just would, every time we would like come home from somewhere or something, I would always like get out the car and look outside, look up at the moon and everything. And obviously from there, it just kind of like snowballed into something really massive. And I can't say that I've had that kind of passion about like anything else. So yeah, I would say when I was about like 10 or 11. So it's been about a good decade or so that I've been in this field and really like head first, dove head first into it and really tried to get involved with everything.
Now, a lot of people around that age want to become astronauts, and obviously they don't
Yeah.
continue on with their passion and actually become astronauts. What
Mhm.
do you think actually caused you to continue with your interest and actually get to this point?
Yeah, like I said, like it was just a really big passion and I could, envision myself at NASA and stuff. And, I had some role models. Carl Sagan's a huge role model. I talk about him a lot. It is unfortunate when I was little, I didn't really have like female role models. At least I wasn't, looking for, you know, female role models. I just you know what I mean? Like I just didn't have them. But I knew they were out there. And nowadays, obviously, I have so many female role models, women of color, especially, that really inspire me and, are living proof that, I can do this, right? Because obviously there's still a long ways to go for women in STEM, especially women of color in STEM. And I'm a huge advocate for that. And that's something that I stand up for and hope to get, younger girls involved as well. Um,
Looks like you might have gotten
so
frozen
is
for a
not
second.
easy.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But no, no.
Should I?
Yeah, you kind of
Okay.
froze there for a moment.
Okay. I
So
will
I,
try and go back to what I was saying.
okay.
Yeah. So the main thing was just my role models that I had when I was younger, that really inspired me to get to that position and be like them. But also my family was really supportive and they still are. Um, and yeah, that really just inspired me to be in that position and want to research these things and really help people. My passion for science communication came a lot later on. That was very recent. But I've always wanted to do science and uh, be at NASA, so to speak.
Whenever you're talking to people as a science communicator,
Mhm.
what do you find is the easiest way to connect with people? I mean, how do you get them excited? What works?
Yeah. Yeah. My biggest thing that I tell people is just be yourself, really, because if your tweets, because here's something I've noticed being on Twitter for some time now. everybody tweets a certain way. Everybody has like a tone in their tweets, and I think it reflects on like how you talk, right? Usually I think how you talk is how you're going to type, if that makes sense. So everybody has like a certain way that they tweet, and a lot of, people come across as authentic, right? You want to come across as authentic and be yourself in your tweets, because if you're kind of tweeting like a robot or using super big words or something that could just like deter people from engaging with your content, so to speak, then they're not going to want to read it, right? So what I try to do is I'm just myself. Like, I express a lot of excitement. I don't know if you've read a lot of my tweets. I have a lot of capital letters in there. And that's not just me doing that for whatever reason. I do it because I'm genuinely showing my excitement and my passion. And I've gotten a lot of messages where people say, like, thank you so much. Like, I can really feel the passion in your tweets. And it's really nice when people say that. So yeah, my biggest thing is to just be yourself and type as if you're talking to people, right? And just connect with people that way.
Now, you mentioned that you're interested in planetary biology and want to begin to
Yeah,
do a PhD in that,
yeah.
and that one of your interests is to find life on another planet.
hmm
I wanted to spin that around the other direction.
hmm
What do you think about putting life on other planets?
Yeah, so I know that this has been a topic that people have talked about for a while, especially with the upcoming like humans going to Mars sometime in the future. Um, I definitely think so. There's definitely a lot of ethical considerations to think about when it comes to this. I was in an astrobiology class my senior year, so last year, and we talked about topics like this. And one of those was, going to other planets and stuff. And like I said, there are definitely ethical considerations because we don't want to potentially contaminate anything. Now, Mars is someplace that we've thought of for a long time, putting humans on there, and um, and that's really good, right? It's our neighbor, similar in size, not really. It has, cold temperatures, but it's not like so extreme that, uh, what I mean? Like, it would be possible if we had that kind of technology. And we have rovers on there right now, and so far that we know of, there isn't life on there currently. So you could be like, okay, well, there isn't life on there currently, so humans could be there and there'd be no issue. I think that's okay, right? As long as, there's still something to consider, is what I'm saying. Like, I think we just have to be cautious and try not to biologically contaminate that kind of environment. But I do, think it's makes sense for humanity to want to expand and go elsewhere, just because our own planet is, not going to be here forever. So yeah, that makes sense.
Are uh, on the other side of it is just so fascinating and exciting, to just
Mhm.
like, I mean, like whenever you look at the size of the universe and the size of the earth, it's like everybody being like all of humanity being stuck in like a little bitty closet or something and not
Yeah.
exploring the rest of the house.
Yeah, I definitely, that, I mean, there's that famous quote that's like, Earth is the cradle and humanity can't stay in the cradle forever. So that's definitely, I agree with that. I think we should explore, but I think we should also take things into consideration before just full on, going.
Now, as a science communicator and somebody that's excited
Mhm.
about space,
Mhm.
I don't asking you if you know that NASA plans to put astronauts on the moon is probably pointless. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, do you remember when you found out
Found out about
Artemis
Artemis.
and
Oh,
uh
it was a while ago. I don't know when, but it was a while ago. But it's really, really exciting because I obviously wasn't here for the Apollo program. But I really love the Apollo program. Apollo 13 is my favorite movie. I love watching that over and over again. And I just love, you know, thinking about the excitement that people must have felt back in 1969, just seeing man walk on the moon. I mean, it was one of the most watched it is one of the most watched events of all time, like televised events. So that's, something to think about as well. That means that humanity does care about this kind of thing, and it is exciting. Now, obviously, there's the people that's like, well, why has it been, 50 plus years and we're just now going back, and those people I try to ignore because they don't understand that it's really, really difficult to do this kind of thing. And also, NASA doesn't get that kind of funding all the time. I think the Apollo program had a lot of funding and stuff to make that possible. But nowadays, obviously, NASA has a bunch of other missions and stuff to worry about as well. But it's good to see now that we just finished the Artemis 1 mission. So now we are officially in the Artemis era, and thinking about the fact that I'm going to see people landing on the moon and walking on it in my lifetime is really, really exciting. And it's obviously going to be very soon. It's going to be in a few years, I believe. So, yeah.
Yeah, whenever I started this project back in 2019, we were planning to have people walking on the moon in 2024, which is why I'm kind of counting down to the end of 2024. So
yeah.
So whenever I go up to people at Starbucks and I say, hey, can I interview you for my project? Did you know we're going to the moon and stuff like that? About 80% of them say they have no idea that we're going back to the moon. I was wondering if this surprises you.
It does. I feel like it's been a huge thing. I mean, I guess maybe it's because I'm so immersed in the space community and industry that like this is just common knowledge to me that people should know it. But I hope after the Artemis 1 mission, people know, you know what I mean? Because I feel like it was such a huge thing and a lot of people watched it and talked about it. So hopefully now more people know that we're going back and that we plan on sending the first woman and person of color to walk on the moon.
Now you're a scientist and scientists like experiments.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you would be willing to do a social experiment for me.
Okay.
So the next time you go to a coffee shop, just ask a random person that they know and let me know.
Okay, no, that's good.
Out.
No, I need to know that because you telling me that is very surprising. I don't know. I thought it was like common knowledge that we were going back. But yeah.
I think a lot of the difference between now and 1969 is back in 1969, if you could get on like the front page of the newspaper or the nightly news or the national magazines, then people knew about it. But now
that's true.
Our news is like so personalized.
It's online. Yeah, you're right. Because people's Twitter feeds are personalized to what they're interested in. So they might not notice this kind of thing because it might not show up on their feeds. Right.
I mean, an executive at Intuitive Machines sneezes and it shows up on my Twitter feed. But, I don't even know who's in the World Series. So, there's that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I guess I should ask that. And I might even ask a bonus question, which is when do you think we plan on going back? Because I feel like that's a good question that a lot of people ask in terms of Mars. Like, a lot of people have different estimates, for when humanity is gonna go to Mars and like that kind of thing. And I think it largely has to do with Elon promising a lot of things that obviously have not happened.
Like froze again.
But I think we'll go to Mars when they think we'll go to the moon. It did?
Yeah, it did. But then it like sped up really fast and I got all of it. So it's very peculiar. It's like
maybe are you gonna like post a recording? I think maybe just put I don't know.
I was gonna say just take what I'm saying. But,
I was gonna say put like a transcript of what I'm saying. Maybe that would be easier.
Yeah. Well, I mean YouTube automatically like
that's true.
It, so that's good. Actually, I was planning to write a program at some point and download it and put it all in a database so I could like quickly search through all 1,180 interviews.
That's a lot of interviews. Well, if it's like so messed up and you can't use it, just let me know. I can
no, it's good. It's
okay.
It's minor, but yeah. So whenever you talk to people about us going back to the moon, and they're like, well, haven't we already been there, or why are
Oh
we
yeah.
going, that
Yeah.
type of thing. I mean, how do you answer that?
That's a good question. I mean, I've definitely had a lot of those types of, well, I don't want to call those people negative, because I think a lot of people definitely care about, you know, humanity going places in the universe. So they kind of ask, why are we going back? Because it's like, if we've done it again, or if we've done it in the past, shouldn't we be looking forward and going somewhere else, right? Like Mars. And so those people, obviously, you want to be nicer to them, because I've definitely dealt with the way more negative people that have a lot of words to say. But those people, I usually just try to say that this kind of, first of all, getting people to the moon is difficult, right? It was incredible that with the 1969 technology that they were able to accomplish that. Like, they literally didn't have the internet. So if there was an issue, it was all done by hand. Like, most calculations, I think, were done by hand. And I think the what was the fact? It was like the amount of data was like as much as your cell phone or something. It was like really crazy to me. So obviously that is something to behold, right? Like, how did we do that with that kind of technology? And so since our technology is, a lot better nowadays, why are we trying to do the same thing that we did 50 years ago? And to that I say, like I said, it is very difficult, regardless of the fact that they were able to do it back then with limited technology. We should still do it again, because taking humans further is going to be even more difficult than taking humans to the moon, right? So a trip to the moon is only like a few days or whatever, versus a trip to Mars is more than half a year. And so if we just have humans as like test subjects to go to Mars without proving that we can go to the moon and do that safely and everything first, if there's issues with that, then what are we going to do, right? Because they're going to be a lot farther, and communication is going to be a lot difficult. Rather than on the moon, it's a lot quicker to communicate with them and make sure everything's okay. So yeah, all in all, what I would say is that space flight is very difficult. I feel like that should be common knowledge. So doing something that we did in the past is not necessarily a bad thing. We just want to make sure that we can do it safely, and yeah, so that we can go further.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about going further, like
Yeah.
if you were to project out, 200 years in the future,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is humanity still only on the Earth, or have we actually, created settlements in other places in the solar system? What does it look like to you?
Yeah, this is something, again, that I've been thinking about. So I'm sure you know about like the Kardashev scale and stuff like that, but I'll still explain it for people that don't know. So the Kardashev scale is basically like a scale that is like from 1 to 4 or something, but some of them have gone beyond 4, but I think it's 1 to 4, which is like ranking a civilization based on their energy usage. And so on that scale, humanity is not even a type 1 civilization yet. Because I think a type 1 has to use the entire energy of their planet, if I'm correct, and we haven't done that yet. So we're not even a type 1 yet. And then it goes all the way out to type 4, which is like they use like their entire galaxy's worth of energy, which is, I can't even fathom that, obviously. Now I bring that up to say, like, how advanced are we going to be in several hundred years? I definitely think we will be beyond Earth. Do I think we'll be that far? I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe not, because people talk about Mars and terraforming Mars and doing all that, but they don't realize that the technology to do that is, we don't have that, and it's going to take a long, long time to even, do that. So imagine going further than that. We can't even, first of all, we can't even survive on the planets that are further, beyond Mars, right? Because they don't have solid surfaces. The gas giants don't have solid surfaces. The ice giants are way too cold, and they also don't have solid surfaces. So our only hope really in the solar system is either moons or Mars. So I think Mars is going to be our focus for a while, and we'll probably have something going on the moon by then, but I don't know and humans will definitely have touched down on Mars by then, but I don't know if there'll be like a settlement on Mars. But I think there'll be some kind of base on the moon, so that because I think NASA's talked about that. So I think there'll be some kind of base on the moon where communication can be a lot easier, and if we need like refueling or something like that, it'll be like a pit stop, on the way to Mars.
If you could take a trip to space, would you?
A lot of people have asked me this, and I think people find it crazy that I say that I don't inherently want to be an astronaut. I've never had that dream, but I would like to see Earth from above. I think that is a huge thing that I would love to do because of something called the overview effect, which is the feeling that astronauts get when they're looking down at Earth for the first time. It's this overwhelming amount of emotion because, you're looking at our home, you're looking at the place where everybody has ever lived, dead or alive, all this history, that kind of thing. And it fills them with a bunch of emotion. And I would love to experience that. I've seen a ton of pictures of Earth from space, and I'm like, dang, I wish I could see that. I'd want to do that, but I don't know. It's just, first of all, the amount of training is really rigorous, and I'm also like scared of roller coasters. So I feel like putting me in a rocket with that much force on it is way worse than even a roller coaster. So I'm not sure, but I know that we are working on making space travel more accessible for people, which I am in support of. So perhaps one day I could go up and see, even if it's like really short, go up and see Earth for a little bit. Because there's, been a ton of people now that they never thought they were going to be selected to go to space, and they are. And I'm connected with a lot of them on Twitter. So it's really nice to know that, people that have been having this dream for many years of their lives, it's finally happening for them. So maybe one day.
Let's say we have a Martian settlement. There's 100,000 plus people on Mars, and you had enough friends come back, and they're like, it's nothing. It's like easy to get up there. It's just like, in fact, they can knock you out if you really don't want to experience the takeoff or whatever. Would you consider being one of those settlers to Mars?
Like one of the first people, or
no, like after 100,000?
If it's already established and there's like no problems, then possibly. But are you saying this as like a permanent, like I'm not coming back?
You could go back if you want to. I mean,
yeah, if I was allowed to come back, I would say yes.
No,
and like I said, it would have to be after it's already established, because I don't want to be one of the guinea pigs.
Yeah, 100,000 people, I think, is pretty well
It's
established.
pretty good. Yeah, that's like
a
city's worth,
I mean, at that point, you have people making pizzas and, everything else that people do. Yeah. So I like to take that 200-year question and flip it on you.
Okay.
So instead of living in the year 2022, imagine live in the year 2222.
Okay.
And just like today, you might think back to 1822, and you're like thinking horses and buggies, and whatever else. There are candles and outhouses, and what do you think people in 2222 will remember about this decade?
Oh God. Well, I'm sure we've been off to a rough start. 2020, the 2020s have been off to a rough start with COVID. and, you know, a lot of political issues and that kind of thing. So right now, since, you know, we've only experienced a few years of this decade, I would say they would have a negative interpretation of it. I think I've seen a bunch of memes where it's like people in the future looking, you know, looking at their history books in the chapter for 2020s, and they have to highlight so many things because so much happened. And I'm like, yeah, that's very true. So right now I think they would have a negative perception of it, but who knows, maybe it'll turn around. I think there have been, you know, despite even now, you know, despite all the negative things that happened, there's still so much, there's still a lot of good that came out of it, especially in the space world, right? Like this year alone, we had Artemis 1, we had JWST, you know, we had a bunch of SpaceX things go up, we had this and that. Like we had so much happening this year alone in space that I think, you know, that is a lot of positives that can kind of outweigh the negatives. So yeah, so I think, you know, they would have some strong opinions is what I'm going to say. At the moment, they'd probably be negative, but who knows, maybe it'll turn around and they will have things to look fondly on in this decade.
Is there anything in particular in like the next 7, 8 years that you hope happens that will be like so amazing that people will remember that in 200 years?
Space related or just in general?
Let's keep it open, just in general.
Okay. Um, that's a good question. I think what I would like to see happen for the world is just something big in terms of climate action, because, you know, a lot of people have been talking about, a lot of scientists especially have been emphasizing how crucial it is that we start really caring about our planet, because, you know, the data shows like it's no joke that climate change and global warming have been really impacting our planet. And it's going to be, if we don't take action like now, then it's going to be like unlivable, right, in like the 2040s or something. So that's what I would like to see, is I would like to see something big done in terms of climate action so that I don't have to worry about what my future and my children's future and whoever's future is going to look like. You know, because the older generation doesn't have to worry about it, right? They've lived their lives, but me, you know, the people in their 20s and younger that are like growing up now, this is our future, so we really want something positive to be done about it. So I hope that we start actually caring about the planet and doing something big in terms of like reversing or at least slowing down global warming.
Now, I do envision that being like a technological solution, like some
Yeah.
type of carbon harvesting,
Mhm.
like environmental balancing thing, or do you see it more as a social solution where people change their behaviors?
Well, I think to get to a technological solution, we have to have a lot of people on board. And obviously, you know, I don't want to get too political or anything, but we have a lot of politicians that don't believe in climate change. So if we don't, if our own leaders don't believe in it, then how are we going to make any progress, you know? So I think first things first, we have to really get people's attitudes on the same page so that we can actually make real progress. Because if we only have some people caring about it, then it's not gonna, you know, there's not gonna be any real progress. We need to get everybody on board. So hopefully people start listening to scientists, because they are not just pulling this out of nowhere. It's real stuff. It's real data, you know, that you can see is caused by us. It's not just like, oh, it's a natural thing. Like, yes, there is natural periods of fluctuation in Earth's temperature, which we've seen throughout history, but nothing as major as this. You know what I mean? So the data is there to prove it. We just need people to start believing.
Now, some people argue that if we really want to do something about climate, we need to get rid of all the fossil fuel plants. And to
Mhm.
really realistically do that, you really need to do a more nuclear power plants. And
Yeah.
I just wonder what you feel, you know, what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I definitely don't support fossil fuel, like, you know, support in the sense, like, I think it'd be nice to get rid of it and start doing more renewable ways of energy. I think some countries have started doing that. I'm not super well versed in like what country's doing what, but I know that a lot of European countries are like already doing some really big stuff in that aspect. Now, can we realistically get rid of everything, you know, fossil fuels? I don't think so. I mean, you know, like America's already a country that relies so heavily on cars for transportation that that's not going to change or anything. I don't think everybody's going to get, maybe if electric cars become more like normalized, then people will change. But at the moment, that doesn't look like that's happening. But yeah, I definitely think that we should change our energy sources, you know, and do some kind of renewable energy and make that like the majority, the like big energy source that we use rather than fossil fuels, because I think that would make a difference, you know.
But just kind of going back to I always can't pronounce the name, the Kardashian scale or something like that.
Oh, which one?
The one about the type 1 civilization, type 2,
Oh,
type 2.
Kardashev.
Kardashev.
Yes.
Okay, so that's like really off,
Yeah.
Kardashian,
You're good. You're good.
Kardashev. But I did the calculation one time, and this may not be precisely right, but I
Yeah.
think it's still illustrative. I like the order of magnitude is approximately right?
Yeah.
So imagine you have a sphere that has the circumference of Earth's orbit, right?
Yeah.
And you take that sphere and you look at its surface area. That represents the total output of the sun, right?
Yeah.
And then if you take the cross section of the Earth, that represents the amount of energy from the sun that powers everything on the Earth, like all life, all weather, everything. And the ratio between those two, and the number may not be precisely right, but I believe it's something like 1 to 700 billion.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
know. It's like, if you could just get just a little bit more, like put some type of structures or in orbit around the sun, you could use them for like data processing and manufacturing and materials processing. And, it's just like, we have so much energy available to us.
We do. We don't use nearly that kind of energy, right? The sun puts out so much, I don't know the exact number. I used to know it, but sun puts out so much energy and we don't use nearly that amount. So there's something that we could do, and there's a lot of solutions that people are coming up with. So hopefully, in a few years' time, by the end of this decade, we can get some real progress.
Well, Jasmine, I really appreciate your time. Those were all the questions I had.
Yeah.
But if there's something that you wanted to talk about or include, I definitely like to include it. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to, I kind of want to see your opinions on all of this. Like, where do you see us going in the future? Interviewing you about your same questions.
No, it's great. I think, and the reason I started this kind of daily interview thing was I believe the 2020s are going to be the space what the 1990s were to the internet.
Yeah.
If you went back to 1992, which I was like, a sophomore in high school at that time. And no, I didn't get to see Apollo. But anyway, whatever. Anyway, if you went back to 1992, and you talk to people about email, they would have no clue what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Amazon didn't exist. The web, Netscape, which was like the great ancestor of Chrome, like the granddaddy of Chrome, didn't exist at that time either. And, by the end of 2000, I mean, pretty much every business felt like they had to be on the internet. People were on the internet. It was just like crazy, the amount of growth.
Yeah.
I think the 2020 is going to be like that to space. And I'm kind of interested in documenting the people's perception as we cross over sort of that shock wave, right?
Yeah.
Where it goes from being, whatever, it's a great dream, to being, yeah, of course it happened. It's like there's like this point where the conversation is no longer interesting because people are literally traveling to space every day, and it's like it's something that's actually been accomplished. But I mean, it's like, before commercial airline travel became common, talking to people about flying would have been interesting, right? But then once everybody's like a billion passengers a year, do you think you'll ever fly to a different country? Like, oh, yeah, of course. It's like a less interesting conversation. So I personally think by 2030, both you and I will have the chance to travel to space if we want it.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about, because I think right now, since we're trying to get space travel more commercialized, it's only for those that can afford it right now. It's really, really expensive. But air travel, like you said, used to be the same way. Only the super wealthy could afford it, but now it's just an everyday thing, right? If you and I wanted to book a flight across the world, you could do that, in an instant. So I think space travel is going to be the same way, where it's going to be super easy to afford that in the future. Not at the moment because it's really expensive, but down the line it will be more normalized.
Yeah, and all my money is on Starship. Fortunately,
Oh
I hope it works.
yeah, a lot of people have been saying that. I've definitely gotten a ton of comments about that too. So yeah, I just don't like when people put space agencies against one another, because I talk a lot about NASA. That's just, I follow a lot more about NASA. Now, that doesn't mean I don't care about what SpaceX or ESA or any of the other space agencies are doing, but I personally just like follow closely what NASA's doing. And then people in my replies will just be like, well, who even cares about the SLS? Like, I care about blah blah blah. And it's like, you can like both, you can like both. And also, most space agencies, if not all of them, are working together. So why are you putting them against one another, because I think in order for us to accomplish these really big things in the future, we have to all work together. So I don't know. That was just my 2 cents on that. Okay, let me think of another. Do you think, I mean, this is not really, well, this is technically the future. Do you think we will find life elsewhere or signs of life?
Absolutely.
What do you think it'll be like sooner rather than later, or do we just not have the technology? I think JWST is like getting us there. Now, obviously JWST is not, it's not meant to find life. I want to preface that so I don't make it seem that way. It's not meant to find life, but I think it's going to be the first of like, a generation of like telescopes that can really help us with that.
Yeah, no, I think we'll have ambiguous signs of intelligent
Mhm.
life,
Mhm.
before 2050. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good. I hope so, because I want it to be, I've always talked about this. I want it to be in my lifetime just so I can be like, we did it, and make Carl Sagan and all the other like past scientists that were really passionate about it proud. Stephen Hawking too. Yeah, I definitely think it's out there. I know that, again, that's unrelated to what we talked about, but kind of has to do with the future of space, right? But I think there is someone out there, because space is way too big for it to just be us. And people need to stop thinking that Earth is like super important, because it's not. When you see pictures of us from like super far away, right? From like a different planet in our solar system, like we're so tiny. So it's like, why do you think we're the only ones? Like we're literally nothing. So yeah.
I know it's really crazy, and
Mhm.
it's amazing how the broader your perspective, the smaller your problems are.
Yes, I've definitely noticed that. Yeah, because once you're just like, wait a minute, like, why am I making this such a big deal? I'm literally a speck of dust on a floating blue rock. Like, who cares? I mean, that's kind of an extreme example, but you know what I mean. Like, you're just kind of like, okay. Um, okay, what's another one? I guess the last thing I could ask about is like, since I brought up JWST, like what are your thoughts on that? Like how have you, been looking at the images? What do you think about all the discoveries we've been making in terms of exoplanets? Because I'm also very interested in exoplanets. I want to work on that kind of research in the future as well. So like what are your thoughts on everything coming out with JWST? It's only been 6 months.
Yeah, I've seen maybe what, half a dozen pictures
Yeah,
from.
it's been a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I I get. I mean, I'm not sure what all is involved in those pictures because I mean they've been phenomenal. So I
Oh yeah.
wonderful,
Yeah.
but it's just I guess I would like to see more data. I mean, like
Oh yeah.
why
I mean, you
why
could
are there
check the
like
website.
hundreds?
Check their Twitter account because they post a lot of them. Because there's quite a few that I've seen. There's been like Neptune ones that have come out. There's been exoplanet ones, galaxy ones. A lot of the ones that you've probably seen have been the Hubble recreation ones, right? Where they take a picture of the same place that Hubble took a picture of. Like recently, the Pillars of Creation uh took a picture of that, which obviously, it's really exciting because the Hubble Pillars of Creation was, if not one of the most recognizable space images of all time, in my opinion. I think anybody, even people that aren't into space, they've seen that picture before. So it's really cool to see JWST, taking a picture of that as well, even higher quality than Hubble did. Now obviously I love Hubble, and so this, just because I'm talking about JWST doesn't mean I don't care about Hubble. I love Hubble and I love the new pictures that are coming out from that as well. But I think the future with JWST and what we've only seen in 6 months is incredible, because we've already found many candidates for like the most distant galaxies ever observed, right? So that's just crazy to think about. It's so mind-blowing that we're finding galaxies that only formed a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. So yeah, I'm just excited to see what's coming from that. So I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
My thoughts is what I've seen has been spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
It's been stellar.
A
Sorry.
good pun. No, it's okay.
Yeah. And that I need to look into it some more.
Definitely, yeah.
I'm just so interested in like human space flight.
No,
I
that's
just feel
important
like
too. Yeah.
I really want to see us become multiplanetary in my lifetime.
Mhm.
Like I feel
Yeah.
like if we do that, that will like drive uh kind of like all the developments. Like it's
Mhm.
like Las Vegas. Does it really make sense to put a city in the middle of the desert? You
No.
know? And then but once you have one there and people are flying back and forth, everything else makes sense. It's just like once you
Yeah.
have a city on Mars and you have people flying back and forth, it's just like, it becomes what is it? Self-important,
Self-sustaining.
self-sustaining,
Yeah, it
you know.
just kind of works on its own. Yeah. No, I mean that's definitely good to think about. Like I said, I've been thinking about this a lot because I hate when people say that, oh, why do you care about space exploration and all this and that when we need to focus on our problems on Earth? And it's like, you can care about both, right? Do you know what a Venn diagram is? Like there's overlap. And also, if you study space, you can learn about Earth. Like NASA has been doing that for decades, right? We've learned a lot about our own planet from like learning about others. So why do you think we're going to completely stop space exploration? Because if we do that, then there's going to be no progress made, right? So I don't like when people say that. I think that it's definitely important to focus on both problems here on Earth and important to for exploration because Earth's not going to be here forever. And also, we are killing our own planet at the moment. So we don't know how long it's going to be. I don't want to be doom and gloom, but if we don't start caring, then we might have to relocate elsewhere.
I know. Yeah, I'm talking about that Venn diagram. You have 8
Oh,
billion
yes.
people on the Earth,
Yeah.
and you're like, there's this little bitty dot of people who care about space. This little bitty
Yeah.
dot about people who care about problems on Earth.
But then
You
there's a
merge
bunch
those
of
dots. You
yeah.
merge those dots. You really haven't achieved anything. What you need to do is get those 7 billion people that don't care about either
Yeah,
to care about the
exactly.
earth, you know.
Exactly. So yeah, I think it's huge. One more question now. I just thought of one.
Okay.
Did you ever want to be an astronaut when you were little?
I did. I
Oh,
did. I wanted to be an astronaut. I still
yeah.
want to be an astronaut some days.
Hey, I told you it's more possible now,
Yeah,
more
absolutely.
likely now. So
You know, but it might be like wanting to ride that scary ride at an amusement park. You
yeah,
know, it's like up until the point you get to the front of the line, you realize it's actually going to be you in that seat on
I
that
know.
ride, you know, and then you're like, no, 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 you go. I'm fine.
You change
Thank you.
your mind. Yeah, you're like,
Yeah,
yeah, I've done that before.
I know, me too. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I
Hmm.
think who knows? It's just I love thinking about it. I'm so glad I ended up in this field. So, you get to meet so many people and get a lot of opinions about things. Now, like I said, there's obviously people that are more negative about it, but I don't pay attention to them. So, I only talk to the people that have similar thoughts like me. Now we might not agree on everything, but it still gives us, really good conversation. So, but at least the people that I talk to like aren't this is all fake, who cares, like that kind of thing, because I've definitely had those people in my replies, and again, I don't pay attention to any of those people. I only talk to the ones that care and see a bright future for all of this, which I think there will be too.
Absolutely. Well,
Mhm.
Jasmine, thank you so much for your time and for
Yes.
participating in my
Thank you for
project.
asking me.
And I look forward to the wonderful discoveries you're going to make. And
Thank you.
anyway, you have a good rest of your day and
You
look forward
too.
to staying in touch.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.